So you think watercolor pencils are just for coloring and activating with water? I used to think that too until I realized that even my favorite swatch technique, the one where I create paint by rubbing a pencil on a palette, is kind of old news. And I just developed a way cooler method to paint watercolor pencil backgrounds effortlessly without tedious coloring or even a paintbrush. Hi, I'm Françoise. Welcome back to my channel, one of the biggest and most in-depth watercolor pencil resources on YouTube. This technique is super simple and easy to try, and it's cheap, and chances are that you already have everything at home. So after the idea came to my mind, I decided to experiment, and I'm going to show you what this looked like. I used my Faber-Castell Arbor Stir watercolor pencils, and I went for colors pink, yellow, orange, and a beautiful golden shade. I grabbed my acrylic panel so I can tape my sheet onto that and move it if I need to. I'll show you what I mean in a minute. I also grabbed a piece of plain sanding paper. And before jumping into a full painting, I really wanted to test this technique on 3 types of 100% cotton watercolor papers to see which one performed the best. So I selected Arches Cold Press, Winsor & Newton Cold Press, Winsor & Newton Hot Press. And now here's how the technique works with the first option, Arches Cold Press. Use the sanding paper and grate the pencil onto it, and I did it with pink and yellow. Then with your finger, move that around on the sheet in circular motions until all the nooks and crannies in the paper are filled with color. It's really easy to do, and I like that in places I had more yellow, in others more pink, and elsewhere I overlapped both colors to create new variations of these two. And here's where it gets interesting. Grab a spray bottle, and now spray the paper with it and experiment with how close or how far you do it to get more or less water in one spot and create different effects. So I started tilting the panel. That's why I wanted to use one, so the paint could move around and create interesting patterns. I added a few splatters of water to create blooms, and then I dried the sheet to add more pigment in the same exact way and introduce my golden color to get darker parts in that background. Look at these gorgeous organic stains and the vibrant color. So now remember, the experiment's not finished, it's going to get even better, and then I'll show you how I use it in an entire piece of art and how we can push this technique even further. So I did this again with Winsor & Newton Cold Press, and I got very similar results and a very similar experience to Arches. With Winsor & Newton Hot Press paper, however, I noticed that I needed less pigment because the paper is smoother and it's easier to cover up, and that's the first thing you want to remember. Hot press is probably better for this technique. And then, by nature, hot press always dries a lot faster than cold press or rough papers. It's just a little bit less absorbent. So I noticed that the final looks with all the stains and interesting patterns were even better. That's why before we continue experimenting with this, just remember that cheap cellulose papers and hot press kinds are probably going to be better over cold press cotton papers, because here we want those odd stains to appear. We are not looking for even and flawless backgrounds that my favorite Arches cold press papers would give. With hot press watercolor papers and watercolor, my experience is that I get a lot of patchiness and it's usually very bland in color, but it's not the case with this technique, and that's what's great. Look how smooth and vibrant this is, even compared to the cold press papers. How beautiful. And what I want to point out is the beautiful pencil texture mixed to a watercolor-like effect. And what's even interesting is that not everything was activated here, so we end up with a little bit of a pencil texture and a little bit of a watercolor texture. It's a mix of both. To put this technique to the test, I decided to use a large sheet of hot press paper and paint a rose from reference. And the tutorial for this is on my Patreon in real time and with my voiceover. You can find it along with countless other watercolor pencil, Inktense, and watercolor tutorials, all accessible for a small monthly fee of $4, $10, or $13 a month. So head over to the description of the video in case you'd like to check that out and join. First, I masked the rose with masking fluid to keep the paper clean and white there. Then I used my sanding paper block to sprinkle bits of green, yellow, and brown onto the background. I sprayed water just like before. I added a few splatters, and the effect looked beautiful, although I'll admit that it's a lot messier with a large sheet, but it's manageable. Watercolor pencil, at least the Faber-Castell Auberge Durer kind, are also very easy to clean, whether it is on a finger or a surface, from my experience. Interesting observation that surprised me is that when I needed a second, darker layer to really make the white rose pop, I switched back to using regular sanding paper, which is going to be so much more affordable than the artist block you just saw, and I quickly saw the difference. The grater wasn't giving me enough pigment at all, and I had to constantly use a new sheet, which was kind of annoying actually, while the plain sanding paper gave me way more color with minimal effort. So the lesson here is that with this technique, everything is simple and affordable. I even got some sponge head with a handle that I won't show here, the kind that you'll find with the pan pastels, and I found that using my finger was a lot more effective than those. Since I wanted a really deep background, I did end up using a lot of pigment to get there, especially because the sheet was large too, but that was totally expected. I don't think the technique itself is pigment hungry. That rose needed to pop against something dark. This background is not as exciting as the previous ones because it is dark and mostly green, but whatever you paint, remember to always overlap colors, and I did it here too with a bit of yellow and brown added here and there, even though we cannot really see them that well. And now keep watching because I'm gonna use this technique again for another cool effect just a little bit later. Once the background was dry, I removed the masking fluid easily, and I started coloring directly on dry paper using my pencils. For the rose, I started with yellow, then I layered pink on top, again because it is better to work with more than one color. You'll end up with interesting variations of them. It looks more realistic and natural. For shadows, I used brown, but I overlapped it with yellow and sometimes pink as well, so the shadows weren't dull or lifeless. It's a small thing to do, but it makes a difference. I did press harder in places to start helping each petal stand out against one another. Then I activated everything petal by petal with a clean, damp brush, making sure to wipe my brush often to avoid muddying the next area with leftover paint on the brush. But as expected with realism, one layer isn't enough, so I went back in with more pinks and deeper shadows, and I refined some petal shapes as I went. It was very easy to do. Always easy to fix and improve something as long as you don't add very dark colors or press like crazy with a pencil early in the process. Painting in the way that I do it for realism is a gradual thing, and we want to take it step by step and enjoy every moment. And even take a break if you need to. It's so easy to do with watercolor pencils in particular. To complete the painting, I added leaves and a stem with green and brown to blend them seamlessly into the dark background. Instead of painting a full stem, I let it fade into the shadows to make it feel like the rose was emerging from the scene. Then I tested my white pencil. Sometimes I use it dry, sometimes I wet the lead to improve the highlights. I like this method because it's subtle, but it's effective enough for a natural and realistic effect. For the final touch, I wanted even deeper shadows and melt the flower into the darkness even more. So I had the idea to use my sanding paper again with brown and green, and I used my finger again to add it on top of the lower petals because remember, This technique doesn't require that we wet and activate everything all the time. We can decide to activate some of it, all of it, or none of it. Even though, remember, it's less likely to lift when it is wet and it has set into the paper after drying. But in my experience, when you make circular motions and really have the pigment get into the paper really well, it doesn't lift that much either. I even added a bit of pink to the background to subtly tie it back to the rose because that's a good trick for color harmony, and I thought the background liked a little bit of color. So you can see now how easy it is to play with this technique for various effects. It's fun, simple, but it also creates a super unique blend of watercolor and pencil textures. That's where it's so interesting. We might not even need to use watercolor and colored pencils together as much anymore when watercolor pencils alone can do it all. So if you enjoyed this, please let me know in the comments below. It's always appreciated to get feedback from you, know what you thought. And if you want to learn more about watercolor pencils, there's plenty on this channel, including this video here, where you can learn about my top 5 watercolor pencil brands. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.